Thank you, David. Good morning to you, and good morning to everyone out there. Welcome to CodeRage 7. I know that you've had a few sessions already, but we're hoping you'll enjoy this next 30 minutes as we talk through the product address. Joining me in the studio is a product management team. Of course, includes myself and Serena DuPont. And what I'd like to do during this product address, of course, is talk about what a great year it's been for Delphi and for Embarcadero on this product, and some of the things that we're doing from a technology perspective, and also kind of give you a broader view of how we see the world, the business opportunity for not only ourselves, but for you over the next several years, because we believe there's just ample opportunity for software developers. So, we'll give you that view, and then we'll get into some details on XC3 for everybody on the phone or on the CodeRage meeting today. So I'd like to start with a special announcement. So hopefully many of you saw a couple of our tweets and blogs that we do have a special announcement today. And joining the product management team here in Embarcadero, we'd like to welcome Marco Cantu. Yay, cue the applause. Thank you. So we're really excited to have Marco join the team. I think most of you, and probably all of you, know Marco very well over the years working in the Delphi community. He's written many books about Delphi. He's very active in supporting the language and the work that we do. So we're very pleased to have Marco come on board and help us drive the future direction of Delphi and these products. So welcome, Marco.
Thanks a lot, and I hope to be useful to Delphi, to the product, and to the community as well.
So just to let you all know, Marco will also be staying in Europe, so where we have a very large audience of Delphi users. So Marco's much more accessible to you folks out there in Europe and on that side of the world. So I'm going to give you his personal cell phone. No, I'm just kidding, Marco. But no, seriously, feel free to reach out to any of us at any time with any questions, concerns, future requests, those kinds of things. We'd love to hear back from you folks. So Marco, maybe we can just have a quick little Q&A, not to put you on the spot, but tell us a little bit about your history and what you see happening here with Delphi.
I've been using Delphi since day one. Well, actually before day one. Been with the product over these years. Done consulting, training, written quite a good number of books, and I always liked the product, and I think it's a great product. It has its up and downs, as every product has, but right now it's the product has an impressive opportunity. With the development world changing because of the platform we are developing for is changing significantly, Delphi could really get back to the forefront as it was kind of in the early days and be really a significant product. So for all of you that have been loyal to Delphi over the years, it's a great opportunity. But also for many others will be a good product to start following and working with.
Yep, I agree with Marco. I think this is unprecedented opportunity for how we're targeting in our strategy around Delphi and application development. This is probably one of the few times in history where market factors are really benefiting what we're doing especially with regard to multi-platform and helping you folks deliver a single Delphi source code base, not just for Windows, but for Mac and coming up iOS and Android as well.
Yeah, on the Windows platform, Delphi's been a very good product technically on top notch, but it always suffered the fact that, there was Microsoft was doing something else, and was Visual Basic in the early days, and then .NET, and with its various flavors over the years. But Microsoft is not a player in the multi-operating system environment we have today, because they want to push their platforms, of course. So what Delphi is doing today is really not just following someone else, but taking the lead. And I think the FireMonkey experience has shown that Delphi can take the lead, not just cloning someone else's technologies or following what Microsoft was doing, but actually taking the lead with a very bold move.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you and welcome to Embarcadero.
Thanks.
And we hope that you in the Delphi community appreciate as we do, the benefit of having Marco on board and helping guide the product forward.
Yeah, and feel free to get in touch. I mean, my past email addresses still work, but I also have at marco.canto@embarcadero.com is working, so you can use that. And I'm going to have like 3 other sessions at Code Rage, so there will be time to chat.
I was about to say, we have Marco here in Scotts Valley. He's going to be busy this week.
Yeah, but not only this week, I guess.
Let's hope not. We'll keep you very busy for sure. Okay, great. So, so what I'd like to do again is talk a little bit about how we see the world. Of course, we could talk about Delphi technology, and there's plenty of sessions during the next few days that gets into the specifics. But I thought it'd benefit you and everyone really for us to understand Embarcadero's overall strategy, because we're the ones delivering Delphi. We got to make sure that we have a good business opportunity, and we believe we do. So let's get into some details there. The way we look at the world really is that opportunity is everywhere, and it has to do with how many people are using devices and interacting with data, and this whole change around, and especially in the last 10 years of connectivity and the ability to get data anywhere, anytime. And we were looking at lots of 2 billions out there, 2 billion PCs and mobile devices out there in the market, over 2 billion terabytes, that is a Z on front of that database symbol there, of data, and over 2 billion connected users. So there is just immense amount of data, and essentially we have this information at our fingertips anytime, anywhere. And it's up to us as application developers to help people utilize that information in a efficient way. Otherwise, it's just pure information overload. So we'll talk a little bit about our database side, because Embarcadero doesn't do just developer tools. We also develop database products, and this is really for managing that huge amount of data. So just to give you an example of the amount of data that Embarcadero users are managing, there's well over 50,000 Embarcadero database professionals out there managing more than 2 million databases, which equates to about 3 billion tables, on and on and on. Just an insane amount of data. And we see this being a very big growth industry. The number of servers is going to increase. The number of enterprise data is going to increase. I mean, basically, you're just seeing more and more and more and more. I love the fact that I can go to a local electronics store and get a terabyte drive for under $100. This is just a sign of the times that that data is what's driving this knowledge field. And on the data management side, we help. This is data that you'll be using as application developers. We can help your teams also design your databases, develop those databases with SQL, of course, optimize them, and then help manage them as well. And once you have these data, this data well set up and available to you, that's when we get into development. So a little bit about our developer stats, or in general, there's well over 16 million developers worldwide. And this comes from Evans data. And roughly, those 60 million developers are producing about 52 billion lines of code per year. Well, that's a lot of code out there. The average that it costs to write code and maintain code is $28 per line. So I think these are just kind of interesting metrics in terms of not only is it the cost for writing a piece of code, but also maintaining it over time, which means that developers are spending $1.5 trillion worldwide per year developing source code. And I know all of you out there know how expensive it is to put your time and effort into developing code. So that's why, in Delphi, I think, and Marco, you can attest, and why many of you adopted Delphi back then and continue to use it today, was that it just really makes development much more efficient. Your cost for developing code is actually much cheaper. And this gives you, of course, a competitive advantage. So our customer base, we're about 3 million of that developer base, including Delphi and C++ Builder customers. You guys are delivering about 9.7 billion lines of code per year. And because of the way that we built Delphi and the way that you use it, you can write less code. So your effective cost per line of code is about $5.60. It's a lot cheaper than the typical developer out there. So this is a lot of savings that you're able to take and get to market quicker and take advantage of market opportunity. But that's really just the tip of the iceberg. Is I love this picture because it is a great metaphor for perspective. Oftentimes we just see the tip, and there's a lot going on underneath this, and that's definitely true in this case. And let's just go back in time a little bit. Marco was talking about how the world is changing, and I think we all see that, of course. In 1999, when we were all using Delphi regularly as well, it was a Windows world. And Windows 98 was just released. If you're doing application development, you're writing for Windows. And that was the enterprise world that we had back in 1999. And over the next 5 or 6 years during that time, the web really had an amazing amount of growth. And people started writing applications to be used through web browsers, delivering these applications onto basically Windows through the web. So, but, essentially it was two platforms now that people can write applications toward. But today, the world has really the amount of platforms that are part of an enterprise solution has really just, more than doubled. Not only do you have to think about Windows development today, but in particular mobile. I'm sure most of you or all of you have had customers say, I love your Windows application. Can you get it onto the iPad for me? Or can you get it onto my Android device? Or can you get it onto my PowerBook? So in addition to Windows, I think we all have to seriously think about how do we help our customers take advantage of the fact that they have many devices now. And some industry terms like bring your own device have been used, but it's really a trend that has driven this need to start thinking about multi-platform. Executives or others bringing in their iPads to work and wanting to work in that form factor, but then not having access to their Windows application. So, this is an unprecedented time in history where you can't just think about one platform anymore. You have to think about all these other platforms that people are actively using and need to get to that data and to have an application experience on all these different form factors and operating systems. So just a few numbers. Of course, it's a very large opportunity of users out there. So I'm sure many of you know that supporting multiple platforms is not easy. If you're targeting Windows, you're using Visual Studio or using Delphi or you're using C++ Builder, but you're using a particular tool set that's targeted towards Windows. If you're using Mac, Apple provides Xcode and the Objective-C language and the Cocoa framework. So there's yet another tool set that you'd have to learn and support. If you're doing devices, there's actually several developer kits between iOS and Android in different languages. Whether it's Java Dalvik on Android or again Objective-C on iOS. And if you're doing web, you can be using any number of tools, including Eclipse, to target the web platform. What this really comes down to, though, is unless you have a framework that really helps manage code across multiple platforms, your costs are going to be doubled every time you need to take on a new platform. And the cost isn't necessarily the initial cost of learning the new language and learning the new framework and environment to develop code. It also really hits you several years down the road when you have to maintain 4 separate code bases or more. And you're being asked to add a feature or fix a bug. You have to do it in all these different languages, all these different frameworks across all these different platforms. So our vision for the future, and really where what drives our strategy, is to help manage that problem with a single source native cross-platform tool that can help you take your applications from desktop to mobile or back and forth. So this is really the Delphi of 2012, the ability to address your customers' requirements across all these platforms and do it with a single native source code base. So we also see great opportunity for attracting people who've used Delphi in the past but may have moved on to other platforms or frameworks, as well as new users who could understand just the pure economics of it, that, wow, I can really do much more and be much more successful by adopting Delphi and FireMonkey and getting on all these platforms with a single source code base. So that's really what's driving our focus and our strategy here through 2012 and beyond. Now, we also recognize, of course, there's that data. We talked a little bit about the data out there, and one of the mechanisms that we really see as part of our strategy is accessing that data, no matter what backend is on, either through web clients or DataSnap clients that can allow you to also use this data on other operating systems. So it's a combination of being able to write native applications in Delphi for these devices, but also being able to get to data that's pretty much anywhere. So let's just do a quick calculation of what it means to do things how they're presented today versus the Delphi way. So a typical project, let's say it's just 50,000 lines of code, to get on all four platforms using separate tooling, separate code bases, is about 184 developer months, which is about a $1.5 million project cost. The effective rate being around $28 per line of code. The Delphi way is that we cut that basically down by down to 20% of that. 2,000 lines of code to get the job done. About $100K project cost, which is immensely cheaper, and the time to market is going to be much quicker. So our goal is to give you that competitive advantage to be able to, again, not just meet your requirements, but also be more competitive out there with Delphi. So underneath this this tip of this iceberg is the world of 2012. All these different form factors, laptops, and this is a really interesting time with the two major releases of part of Windows 8, and also the new Mac OS with the Retina displays. I mean, lots of new technologies are constantly, even for systems that we've been targeting and supporting for a long time. Windows 8 does present quite a bit of change. But at the same time, it also gives us an opportunity through the desktop mode, for example, to be able to move our existing applications forward very, very quickly as well. So it's time to broaden our perspective and understand what the world is and what we need to do to be able to be successful in it. And our goal is to help make Delphi your tool to make you successful there. So let's get a little bit into, in 2012, we released RADStudio XE3. So we want to get into a few details of what we delivered there, just to make sure everybody's well aware, and how this drives or supports our strategy. So probably one of the bigger, releases of this year, which just happened last week, was the release of Windows 8. But again, there's a lot of other stuff going on, Mac OS 10 Mountain Lion, for example. And also, of course, tools to make you productive. So there's a lot going on in Delphi too that we deliver to support this broadening ecosystem. But let's start with Windows 8. So, we talked about Windows 8 presenting some new change. Microsoft delivered a new operating system, WinRT, which is essentially all new libraries that if you're writing directly to it would mean rewriting code. Win32 APIs are no longer supported, so you have to adopt the WinRT code. But I think Microsoft did something really smart especially for Intel-based devices, and that is to support a full desktop mode. And that history of supporting many versions that Microsoft has always been very good at is alive and well in Windows 8. You can take your existing VCL application and your existing FireMonkey applications that targeted Windows, and they're very portable to Windows 8. In most cases, just requiring just deployment, or in some cases, maybe a recompile. But I think one of the things about Windows 8 that's really interesting too is that it also delivered a new UI style. So it's a combination of a new start menu that has these, as most of you have seen, this tile look. It's a very touch-centric user interface. But when you click on one of those tiles, you're basically loading up a full-screen application. So in addition to helping you get existing VCL and FireMonkey apps over in desktop mode, which again is going to be very portable and very easy to get onto the desktop for Intel-based devices, we also wanted to help you take advantage of this new UI style. And so part of the delivery in XE2 set us up for that, where we added style support into both VCL and FireMonkey, the ability to make your app look different. It doesn't have to look like a Win32 control. So the way that we've supported this is through a technology we call Metropolis UI. And this is basically a combination of a few things. First of all, a set of project templates that allow you to build a full screen application, a desktop application, that looks like the applications that are supported in WinRT in Visual Studio, and primarily the grid and split layouts, which are a common way that Microsoft is encouraging developers to deliver their applications. So you can build these applications to look like how Microsoft wants Windows 8 applications to look like. And then by styling this using the Metropolis UI, you can take on the exact same UI style that Microsoft is pushing. So these are these large button, flat shaded look and feel. We provide a mechanism for you to be able to migrate your existing UI over to Metropolis. Now, this will change the style, but of course you're going to want to modify the UI, the layout to look more Windows 8ish as well. It can be different. So, once you get into that style, then you of course use your designer to relay things out, make your buttons bigger, that kind of thing, to make it more touch friendly. So a couple other things that really make this viable to deliver a Windows 8 experience through a desktop application is we've also extended the touch support so that you can have a fat finger instead of just a stylus to be able to access those touch controls. And getting access to the services that are on many of these tablet or even phone devices, things like a gyroscope or an accelerometer or location services. So this is something that we're building also, of course, towards our future mobile platforms, which is the ability to access these hardware services or these location or in-app payment or all these things that are new or mobile specific. You're going to have access to those and be able to take advantage of those. So for both FireMonkey 2 and VCL, you can get this Metropolis UI styling. We also have supporting an Office 2013 type of styling. This is fully supported in both Delphi and C++ Builder, 32-bit and 64-bit. And they're ready for the Surface Pro and Slate tablets that are out there now. Well, Surface Pro is coming soon, but those Slate tablets that are out there, they work great. And then one other thing that we've added, I'd like to end with, is this notion of being able to work with a live tile. So the tiles is really how your app is represented in the new start page inside Windows 8. So the tiles do a couple things. One, they launch your application, so they're basically an icon. But they also are able to receive information from either your application or from a web source to update information regularly inside the tile. So part of the delivery in XE3 was a new component that allows you to interact with your own tile on the screen and send information to it and use it for launching your desktop application. The net effect is that your typical end user of Windows 8 really feels like they're having a full Windows 8 experience, and you've spent almost no effort bringing your existing VCL and FireMonkey application over because it's still running in desktop mode, and you're but able to take advantage of all these new features in Windows 8 and the way that's presented to the end user. So it's really the best of both worlds. Not only can you help people get onto these new devices in Windows 8, but you can take your existing source code. You guys have the ultimate advantage right now, first mover advantage of getting your applications onto this platform faster than anybody else. So that was a look at Windows 8. On the other side, we have regular updates from Apple for Mac OS X, and Mountain Lion is the latest release. What is most significant about Mountain Lion, and it has less to do with the operating system itself and more to do with the hardware, was that Apple released their Retina displays this year. And the Retina displays are stunning. They basically pack in 4 times more pixels than your typical display. So this presents challenges for a developer. You need typically different assets, or you're when you're working with UI, you need to think about especially what type of assets you're working with to be able to take advantage of this higher resolution. So in XE3, we natively support Mountain Lion and Retina displays. So basically the way it works is that we've extended the framework to know what type of display it's working with. And based on the display it's working with, it can either load a standard display set of assets for your controls, or it can render and display Retina versions of those assets so that you can take full advantage of that display. One of the more exciting things, I think, in XE3 was that we spent a lot of effort in helping your applications look pixel perfect. And so one of the things that we've done in FireMonkey 2 was we've enabled bitmap rendering. So in addition to our first release of FireMonkey, where you can use vector graphics for rendering, we now also support bitmap rendering. So you can pick and choose which one makes most sense for your application. But for trying to get a pixel perfect Mac OS X app, or in the future iOS application, bitmaps are the best way for us to help represent exactly what that UI control looks like on that device. So not only do you get native Mountain Lion styling, but you can also continue to deliver custom UI styles. And we've done a bunch of really exciting work around custom styles and non-client area styling, for example, as well. So you can take full advantage of a custom look and feel across all those platforms. Finally, we wanted to ensure that your applications are Mac App Store compatible. So in this release, they are fully compatible with the Mac App Store. And we're already starting to see many applications being deployed through the Mac OS X App Store. So FireMonkey 2 is a major upgrade. Not only do we support the latest operating systems from Microsoft and Apple, but we're mobile ready. A lot of these features I mentioned are in support of us getting onto iOS and Android, and are ready to be used on these devices like Slate tablets or even laptops. For instance, a camera, which is common across all of these, is a sensor. And so the sensor API that we've delivered is common across all these platforms for how you access and use the camera. And the addition of bitmap rendering and non-client area styling really allows us to do amazing things with rendering. So in this example on the screen, you see a Windows 8 application and examples of non-client area styling that are available and capable through FireMonkey. So it really expands the way that you can deliver your applications, the look and feel of them, with a common source code base across all these platforms. A couple other things that I think many of you, especially those of you on XE3, are very pleased with is we've started adding in more and more features that you've enjoyed in the VCL. So things like anchors and layout managers and actions and action lists and multimedia. But one of the things that is hard to talk about as a feature, but is absolutely imperative to you, is performance and quality. And so we've again put a lot of effort into ensuring that it's a very high quality, stable runtime release, and that you're getting the best performance that you can out of it. And then lastly, we're starting to see a lot more third parties jumping on and getting into FireMonkey 2. Just a couple of quick examples. We are part of an XE3 purchase before the end of the year. We're including the TMS grid for FireMonkey, which is an amazing example of a FireMonkey component done really well. And so it behoove you to take advantage of this offer and to be able to use that grid control inside of FireMonkey. And additionally, last week we heard Fast Reports has announced reporting availability now for both FireMonkey 1 and FireMonkey 2. So really those crucial third-party areas that many people have been asking for have been delivered on FireMonkey, and it's a good time to start seriously considering, if you haven't already, moving on to FireMonkey, especially because we're talking about where we take this into the future with regard to mobile readiness. So just a quick comparison, FireMonkey 1 was Win-Mac only. FireMonkey 2, we are starting to deliver our mobile support as well. So we are actively in a beta for iOS, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. FM1 was really desktop focused, and what we did for iOS was basically desktop on mobile. What we're getting in FM2 is not just desktop, but a full native mobile experience. In FM1, it was purely vector UIs. In FM2, we've added bitmap UIs, and again, this is really going to help you deliver those pixel-perfect user interfaces. In FM1, standard resolutions. FireMonkey 2, we added Retina. And then finally, FM1, performance was still being optimized. In FireMonkey 2, we feel that we've achieved a lot of our performance goals, and hope you feel the same way when you start using it. But in addition to the runtime support, we wanted to also make certain areas of the FireMonkey product in particular much more usable. And one of the new features that we delivered in XE2, which was essentially your data access technology for FireMonkey, was live bindings. And the feedback we got was, hey, it looks very powerful and flexible, but it's really hard to use. So we wanted to give that technology a rad treatment, this ability to visually understand and create relationships between not just data and data components, but also any type of property, which is really what live bindings gives us the ability to do. It takes full advantage of RTTI to understand all the objects that you're working with and make those members available to others to use. And live bindings is a way to connect all these across all of these platforms. Across all these objects. So the idea is, like using a designer. You can see your data sets, you can see your objects, and you just start drawing lines between them. And lots of nice visual cues for what's compatible between them. We've also pre-written most live binding translations between common data types, so you don't have to write them. So this is really a great time to take advantage of what live bindings has to offer and build out those really complex data applications. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the tools that we manage that are related to Delphi to some extent, but are developer focused. Interbase XE3 was delivered as well, and what's new in this one in particular, including support for the platforms that we have, and Mac OS and Windows, of course, but is the new To-Go license. And To-Go is a really interesting application for Interbase, which is basically an embedded database that you can take with your application and have zero maintenance, and have that full power of Interbase available to you right there in your application. So it's all set up to easily deploy applications and databases right from the Red IDE. And includes new drivers as well, a DB Express To-Go connector, a 64-bit ODBC driver. And one of the advantages of Interbase as well is you can copy databases directly across other platforms. So, we're really excited about To-Go in particular, and this ability to embed such a powerful database in such a small footprint directly into your application. And then finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about a new product that we delivered in XE3, HTML5 Builder. HTML5 Builder is our answer to web development challenges. We've seen that most web developers are kind of approaching development like many of us were 20, even 30 years ago, which is using independent editors and lots of disparate tools and, really kind of hand coding everything. And so, we've learned and we've built solutions like Delphi around principles that we know work and make you more effective as a developer. So one way to think of HTML5 Builder is that we've taken this Delphi way, and we're bringing this to web technologies. And these web technologies use all standard technologies: HTML5, CSS3. We use standard libraries like PhoneGap and jQuery Mobile to render mobile applications. So you can, of course, build full web applications, meaning you can build a PHP backend in this tool plus an HTML front end that's a web client. Or, and this is, I think, where it's probably going to be very interesting to many of you, is building mobile applications. So actually all the major vendors out there support WebKit now on their devices. They support a way to package your web content into an application that can be deployed through their store and access a bunch of services on the device through tools like PhoneGap. So this is really a viable way to get onto mobile now. And you can actually do quite a bit with web technologies. So one of the promotions that we're doing here through the rest of the quarter is that if you buy Delphi, you get HTML5 Builder. So this is a great time for you to try HTML5 Builder. And you know, the world is, HTML is in your future, just like iOS and just like Android is. If you're not looking at it now, you need to start considering how it fits into your overall application strategy. So we hope you enjoy this product. We think it's a wonderful treatment for web developers, especially Delphi developers who need to take advantage of web technologies, because it's such a common environment for the way that you do development today in Delphi. So just real quick, you can do client-server application development as a combination of PHP, some HTML and JavaScript, or you can do pure client-side development, meaning there's no PHP code at all. It's all pure client-side JavaScript and CSS3 and HTML. And you can deliver these as web applications, MDOT applications, which is mobile optimized, or a packaged application for iOS, Android, BlackBerry, Windows. I mean, pretty much anybody that matters in the mobile space. So the question then becomes, well, you know, when do I use what? And actually, they both have strengths and some weaknesses compared to one another. But the way we look at the world is that HTML5's advantages are when you really need to do simple UIs, and you have a high latency environment. You know, you don't have to manage data quickly. You can or need to do browser deployment. Your data is largely produced in the cloud, is another way to look at it. And you need basically a presentation layer for a data backend. So, you know, it's really helps if, you know, for applications that are essentially collating information from different sources, providing simple UIs to interact with it. I think many of you have probably seen applications like, I'll just use American Express as an example, where you can go to the web and interact with your account, or you can download the application for iOS or Android, and you know what? It looks almost exactly the same, and that's because they're taking advantage of these web technologies to package it. And those are the kind of environments where you're making requests to get data, or, you know, again, high latency environment where it's okay for this type of a technology. The native advantage, of course, as we all know, is that you can manage much more complex UIs. You can deal with low latency and number crunching and high performance that you need on a client side. And a lot of your data is either produced or is accessed on the device. So, you know, looking at both of these as viable solutions depending on your needs is a smart way to look at the world that you have in front of you and figure out how to best solve your customers' requirements. So what I'd like to cover here in the last few minutes before we get into a few more details on mobile is what our mobile roadmap looks like. And this is in particular how you can get access to the technology as we're developing it. Right now, if you buy XE3, you can ask to get onto the mobile beta for iOS. So that is a capability that is made available to XE3 developers. And the beta's been going on now for about 3 or 4 weeks. We've already got several hundred developers on it. So we'd love for you to participate. So once you get XE3, you can reach out to your account manager and make sure that you get on that beta and start building your applications with Delphi for iOS. So a lot of developments going on to support this. Not only are we building a new Delphi native ARM toolchain, we're also building C++ toolchain. This is not just an ARM front, we take our front end, but we're also building an ARM back end, and all the tools associated with that, linkers, debuggers, et cetera, to provide that experience that you're familiar with in Delphi for mobile development. We are building native iOS and Android platform support. That means that you'll have a native runtime library, FireMonkey support, access to native APIs. So this is an important distinction about FireMonkey, how it approaches that problem versus some of the other solutions out there. It is a native application support with full access on both platforms. The mobile framework is actually a subset and a superset of the current desktop framework. It's a subset in the sense that we are fine-tuning things like the RTL to be optimized for mobile. So not everything that's in the current RTL is going to be on the mobile RTL, and in many cases it just doesn't make sense. So we're optimizing that RTL in particular to be optimized. But it's also a superset. There's features that you're going to be using in mobile that you never would use on the desktop. Things like access to a gyroscope, for example, or maybe in-app payment, or these kinds of things that are common on the mobile world, but not in the desktop world. And then finally, we're building Mobile Form Designer. So this helps you deal with the fact that there's so many different types of devices with different form factors and orientations to deal with. So it's really to give you a very smooth mobile development experience. That's the Delphi way. So we're building support for iPhone, iPad, Android phones, Android tablets, all these mobile sensors we talked about, and anything that is a sensor, GPS camera, accelerometer, gyroscope, and there's many other types of sensors too will be part of this sensor framework we're delivering. We're giving you native UX, meaning pixel perfect UIs. We're allowing you to build custom user interfaces as well using FireMonkey styles. And especially different than the previous version of FireMonkey or iOS is we're delivering now the full application stack, which means you can do not only enterprise database access, but also embedded database access, including full support for the DataSnap middleware. So this is the full FireMonkey application stack that's going to be available to you on both iOS and Android. And the compatibility between desktop is pretty key, right? So this really is a opportunity to have a common source code base across all these platforms. Of course, you may want to manage different types of UIs depending on the device that you're on, but you could manage these all within a single source code base. HD and 3D support, automatic handling for Retina high-res. We'll have a fully integrated design and development environment, including a workflow to help you deploy your applications and connect debuggers. And support for things like ad hoc deployment, where if you have an enterprise license, you can deploy to your device for testing without having to deploy to the App Store. And then, of course, App Store deployment. That's, of course, very critical, and in some cases is absolutely necessary to get your applications to market. This is all based on and built on the XT3 platform. So what we're looking at roughly roadmap-wise is our delivery of XT3, Windows 8, Intel, and OS 10 Mountain Lion was in XT3 September. We're looking at an iOS support roughly in the first half of 2003, and Android support to follow roughly mid-2013. Beyond iOS and Android, opportunities to do many things. Windows 8 ARM and WinRT is probably a top candidate. Linux server support. Much of this will be dependent on what your needs are. So we encourage you to share with us what your platform needs are. We, of course, will continue to run surveys, but anytime you run into myself or Marco or Serena, tell us what you need. We're here to deliver a product that suits your requirements. So finally, for those of you that are on XT3 software assurance, we will be delivering the iOS update to you as part of your software assurance. So we have delivered this roadmap and information about when and who gets access to the free update to iOS. But all of you can buy the add-on and use it in your environment if you're using Pro or above as well. So a good reason to consider software assurance as well if you haven't already. So I'd like to spend just a few minutes to give you a quick demo of the mobile capabilities, and then we'd like to do a little Q&A if we have time I know we're running a little tight. So, Serena, why don't you show us a little bit about what we're doing with iOS and mobile development today in the beta?
Great. Hello, everybody. I just want to make sure that you can all see my screen. Great. Excellent. So here I have Delphi running in my Windows VM, and I wanted to show you some of the work that we've done so far that is available in the beta. And as JT mentioned, if you're an XE3 customer, you can ask to join the beta. And as part of that is we have a form factor support for different form factors between iPhone and iPad. You can also change the orientation as well. And as JT mentioned, we have different target platforms you can choose from, and that's iOS device or simulator. Debug mode, ad hoc, if you wanted to distribute applications within your own enterprise, or submitting it to the App Store. Now, as part of that is a good tie-in with what we've done with the styling support in XE3, and that's supporting bitmap-based styling. We have native styling built in. So if you look at the tab control here at the bottom, we have 3 different tab items. And these are all styled to look like an iOS tab item. And you can choose from different ones here. And if I go to the style lookup property, I can choose from my most recent ones. For example, I can choose from the search bar. I can choose from all these different icons that I can select for the tab control. The same also applies for my toolbar. This is also styled to look like an iOS toolbar. So we've done a lot of work to make the styling look native and behave natively, and give you the same type of experience that you would be getting if you were building an application with Xcode, but in the sense you get all the great support that Delphi gives you with your form designer and the drag and drop components, and a really easy deployment to the target platform. One of the things that you can do as well is the tab control has been extended to support not just multiple tabs, but you can also place a tab control within a tab to basically get various views, so to speak. So if you had a registration form, you could have the master tab could be your sign-up page, and then you could have several additional tabs that you can work with. So for example, if I place a tab control within my master tab here, and I select it to align to the client, and then I select the position. Let me just add a couple items here. So in this case, you would see the items here, but I don't want to see them. I want to use this as an actual view. I would go down here to my tab position for my tab control, and then I can select tab position none, and it gives me these different views. And what it allows me to do is place my content, so to speak, within these different views, and then I could have a registration form. You can click next, and as you click next, you would get to the second view, the third view, etc. So this allows you to work with one form if you wanted to have your whole application be contained within one form. Of course, you can work with several forms, but that's just one example. Now, talking about the deployment of your application, I'll be showing you how to deploy this to the simulator. And again, we have a tree here for the simulator to target the iPhone or the iPad. And getting that set up is a really easy process. It's very similar. It's basically the same type of approach if you've used XE2 or XE3 and have done any type of development with the Mac. You run PA Server on the Mac, which is a real simple little install. And it's a terminal-based app, console app. You run it, and then you connect to the IP on your Mac, and you just hit deploy, and it deploys the application. So I'll show you an example of this.
One thing I like to point out while you're doing that, Serena, is that we really try to make this workflow very easy for you just to be in the Delphi environment, and we automate through PA Server using the tooling that we need through Xcode to launch the simulator or deploy to a device and attach debuggers. So, from your experience, it's really just like using Delphi on Windows.
Exactly. It's the same type of approach. We've included all the styling and the controls, so you can make the controls look just like a native iOS application. And I'll show you here. In this case, I'm showing you the different tabs, but you could also hide them as well. And then as you click to go to the next tab and get directed to the next tab, you can also go back, and you can basically set your event handler to go back to the original tab. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out as well is, and I'll start out with a new mobile application here real quick, is the support for native controls like the wheel picker, for example. A lot of you are probably familiar, if you're an iPhone or an iPad user, with the calendar control on iOS. So I'll show you an example here. In this case, all you have to do is place the calendar edit onto your form, which I'm sure many of you have used on Windows. And then we just have to select to turn off the input support, and then click Run. And this is going to deploy to the simulator. We also have support for the general pickers. So if you had a flower shop and you wanted to be able to let people select from a menu of different bouquets, for example, or a grocery store from different items, there's a general picker in iOS that basically takes on what a normal drop-down menu would be, but it's in the native style.
Right, and really the goal here was there's certain controls that really look very native on iOS, like this, as Serena's showing you here, this wheel. And in many cases, we can just use the native control. And that's what we're doing in this case. We're not actually rendering this in FireMonkey. We're asking iOS to render this control for us. So you'll see more and more of that type of support in FireMonkey, where we're mixing technologies between rendering technologies to deliver the best native UI experience.
And I'll show you another quick example here of the combo edit control. We can, of course, decide what is shown here as our default value. And then I can set this to native here and then run this. I'll show you another example. So again, as JT mentioned, this is currently in beta. So if you're an XE3 customer, you can talk to your account manager and get invited to the beta. A lot of great stuff that's in development, as you can see here, and we'd love to get your feedback and get you started building iOS applications.
Absolutely. And just to kind of close on this, as we're showing this last demo, is that when you build this iOS application, and once we deliver the Android support to you, it's a recompile. And you've got an app that's running on both iOS and Android with no additional effort. So going back to the vision and strategy of Embarcadero and Delphi, our goal is to help you be more productive, faster to market, spend a lot less money in developing applications by being able to create a single source code base in the language and framework you love across all these platforms. So we have a few minutes left. I'd like to thank you for participating in the product address this morning. And again, I'd like to welcome Marco again to the team, and he's going to be part of this Q&A, and we'll be able to spend a few minutes on a Q&A.
Marco, what's going to happen with Relax?
That's a good question. I hope that it's not the code, the spirit of that framework will become part of the DataSnap architecture. There are certainly a few things that I would love to see in the product. Like, for example, a much improved way to handle dynamic HTML rather than the old-fashioned page producer. But there will be an ongoing discussion, so something might happen. For the moment, it's still there. It's open source. You can grab it.
And I do want to mention that that's a great question to start with, because we really believe in multi-tier and DataSnap, and we know there's things we can do to really improve your experience with it and manage with the world better today. And Marco being basically an expert in this area, which is a really big benefit to not just Delphi, but also DataSnap in particular. So if you have particular requirements, what was your cell phone number again, Marco?
Just
no,
Marco.cantu@embarcadero.com.
Yeah. Let's see. Is there plans for Windows RT support so that you can get things in the Windows Store?
Definitely. I mean, as you know, we've always been a big supporter of Windows platforms. WinRT is definitely a big shift, and definitely requires a lot more work on our end to support it. Our goal is to support WinRT just like we do other platforms, though, which is to give you a common framework across all of them. So that's, we definitely have started our research, and we've been doing quite a bit of work there. What we've learned from most of our customers, though, is that initially, especially in the first year or so, people are really looking at how do I get my desktop apps over, and mostly we're seeing that we're going to see Intel-based devices out there. So it's a viable approach, one that doesn't cost you any extra money to get those over, in the sense that it just runs in Windows 8 desktop mode, and we can help you style it to look like a Windows 8 app as well. But WinRT is definitely out there for us, and something we'll continue to keep a close eye on, and we'll provide updates as we start really getting closer to something there.
Let's see. There's questions. Oh, so many questions here about when will the roadmap be updated? What about 64-bit for Macintosh? What about parallel programming and all those kinds of things? I always refer people back to the RAD Studio mobile roadmap, which has the mobiles but also talks about WinRT very quickly and Linux Server, right?
Yeah, so we've taken the step to publish the mobile roadmap, and that is our priority in terms of platform delivery. Like I mentioned, there are lots of options for us to look at as we get closer to delivering those. So your feedback will tell us, hey, 64-bit Mac or Linux server or WinRT, help us decide what the right platform priority is for you as Delphi developers.
And there's questions, if I've built a DataSnap server in Delphi or C++, will I be able to build DataSnap clients for mobile?
You can do that today. So either using the native language on each of those platforms with DataSnap connectors we've provided, or we've also done this in HTML5 Builder. You can connect the DataSnap through native web technologies in HTML5. And then finally, for iOS, we'll have fully supported DataSnap clients for your iOS and Android applications.
And another question here about, will developers, once we have the mobile support, will developers still be able to get to the operating system?
Sure, absolutely. And it depends on, like in the case of iOS, the way that other languages, native languages, are supported is through what's called the bridge, the Objective-C bridge. So you can easily connect to anything that's available to you in the Objective-C bridge that we may not have made available through the framework. So that's how you would access iOS, for example. On Android, it's going to be a similar concept, and actually probably a little easier to get to native services on that one. So yeah, definitely. Just like today, you can call a Win32 API call. If it's available to you through a native library, then you can use it.
And for those that are watching the clock, we're going to run over just a few minutes to handle a few more questions with JT, Serena, and Marco, but we'll then pick up the introduction to live binding session right after it, and Serena's part of that session, so she's not going anywhere anyway. Marco, do you feel like the things in the future for Delphi should be more coding support, more visual support, or both?
I think both have merit. I mean, Delphi shouldn't be a product focused only for the power users, for the expert that want to take advantage of the latest features of the language, which I'm consider myself part of that group. But it should also be easy to use for novice developer, for new people coming on board, and when possible, there should be a fast way to get things done. Now, the good thing that's always been in Delphi is that the fast way doesn't interfere with a good way of doing it. I mean, for example, if you take live bindings and visual live binding, you can visually do things that are very powerful, very fast, but it's not that if it doesn't work exactly as you want, you have to trash that code and start from scratch with another technique. You can go into the details of the live binding without the visual and start writing your own expression, installing your own functions, and doing extra configurations, or going low level, create your own custom object that expose data in a given way. So it's not that when you go to the kind of prototype or the fast development, the RAD development, to the full development, you have to switch over to a new technique. You just piggyback on it, and you can go deeper. And that's the spirit of Delphi. It's always been that, and it has to be that in the future.
Let's see, what happens with support of older versions of these operating systems when new versions are added? And will the new versions of OS will be available whenever they come out versus whenever Delphi is released?
Yeah, I mean, our goal, of course, is to help you get on the latest versions as quickly as possible. In fact, we were ahead of Windows 8 in this release.
And we were ahead of Windows 7 with touch support.
That's right.
Before Visual Studio.
Yeah. But since we have so many different platforms moving at such different rates, it's challenging to make sure we're up on the latest on all of those. So our goal is to also help you be able to use tools like, for example, with the way that you interface with Xcode for iOS development. You can use the latest version of an SDK that gets deployed to it through the same mechanism that we provide today. So it's kind of maybe not fully tested and supported, but it's available. So we'll definitely be tracking great ways to not only get you the latest support, but do it in a way that you don't have to wait for it. So yeah, we definitely see that as something we need to help solve in the next year or so.
They want to know how much you've done already in the couple days that you've been here, Marco. How much,
Well, I'm learning, and I've had a few meetings. I'm trying to figure out what the product is inside. I know it from the outside, but it's a bit different from the inside. But it's the second day, still 8. It's still 9 a.m. The second day I'm being here, so I haven't done that much for now. But I should be able to learn fast and start providing my input.
Well, I'll tell you what, we had lunch yesterday with our CEO, Wayne Williams, and our VP of Product and Marketing, Michael Swindell. And, of course, Marco had a lot to share with them, so he's already having a major impact, even on his first day.
And, Marco, is there still going to be the fun side of Delphi?
Yeah. That's not going away. We need to do a fun side of FireMonkey.
There was one question about when will there be an update for exe3. I know we've put 4 hot fixes, particularly up on for download for people.
We'll be we will be delivering a 64-bit C++ compiler later this year, which is in beta also for C++ developers out there. And when that gets delivered, we'll also be making updates available to exe3 users.
Yep. Oh, what about your books, Marco?
That's challenging. I'm trying to figure out if I have any spare time, which won't be much, but I have written material, and the positive thing is that I'm a little more relaxed while giving away what I have without having to actually charge, because now I have a job, which is, not just when I do a consulting or a training class. So that some things will be coming out even pretty shortly, because I'm sitting like on 100 pages written on FireMonkey. So it's doable, but I have to figure out how much time I can put into those.
Okay, everyone, and thank you, JT. Thank you, Serena. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, David.